The Dutch Grand Prix was certainly quite interesting. There was drama, action, and most importantly, chaos. However, the week before that, Max Verstappen was accused of sabotaging Leclerc's race, and then last Sunday, Red Bull was accused of cheating again. In today's video, we'll be talking about the bizarre chain of events that led to this accusation. First up, what's been going on with Yuki Tsunoda? Yuki Tsunoda isn't the best F1 racer out there. In fact, he's at the bottom of the field, and that's not really his fault. The car isn't the best. His team is okay-ish, and most importantly, he's only 22 years old. He has a lot of catching up to do if he wants to make a name for himself. He's had several bad races, but last night's race was just odd. Why? Because he retired. But that's the thing. Most Grand Prix have at least a couple of retirements, so it shouldn't really be a big deal, right? Nonetheless, it was the circumstances and the consequences of his retirement that led to some crazy conspiracy theories. First of all, he stopped right there on the track right after a pit stop. He just stopped racing altogether. He did this because he felt that a wheel wasn't fitted right. Okay, that's understandable. Yuki's team later told him that the tire was okay and he could come back to the pits, which is exactly what he did. In the pits, they played around with his seatbelt for a bit as well, since it was a little loose. After checking the tires and fixing his belt, they released him from the pits. It gets even stranger, because upon rejoining, Tsunoda was also to stop the car immediately. Turns out it was a broken differential, and then he retired. All of this is peculiar, yes, no doubt about that, but it's okay, unique things happen, right? Well, yeah, we mean they do, but as we mentioned, what happened as a consequence triggered a wave of conspiracy theories. This incident sparked a virtual safety car. And who did this benefit the most? Red Bull's Max Verstappen. He got to stay in the lead, and who owns Tsunoda's team? AlphaTauri, Red Bull, hence the speculation. Moving on, let's hear Tsunoda's side of the story. It doesn't seem like any foul play was involved. Speaking to the press later on, the Japanese driver described the incident as, "Like I was drifting all the straight, counter-steering all the straight, that is why I didn't feel like it was normal." And that's exactly why he felt that the tire wasn't fitted. He even seemed quite irate when he radioed in. Later on, he was told by his team to start again because the tires were okay, but after restarting, he told the team that he still felt like something was off. That's when he called it. The racer said that he thought it's the differential and that it was broken, and that's exactly what it was. He was then told by his team that they'll change his tires and send him back out. At that point, the racer told him that there was also an issue with the seatbelt, which had to be tightened, and the car was released for a second time. That's when Yuki reported, there's something wrong. There's something strange at the rear. Something strange. Diff is broken, I think. After that, the car was stopped, triggering a virtual safety car. Even after the race, the 22-year-old reiterated that he knew that was something off with the diff of the car. Maybe the team missed something, or maybe they messed it up by accident while changing the tires. Well, Twitter thinks that they did it on purpose, but let's take a more realistic look at this from AlphaTauri's perspective, shall we? Next up, what does AlphaTauri say about all of this? The team's initial explanation was that Tsunoda called in talking about the tires. They told him to box, checking the tires, everything seemed fine, and then they released him. However, after that, they had a car failure. The suggestion of a car failure right after the pit stop doesn't really make sense, because Tsunoda was already giving warnings due to his in-lap. It appears that the team just wasn't convinced of the issue and decided it wasn't a big deal. You could say foul play was involved, but it seems like a classic case of the driver and team not being in sync. And speaking for AlphaTauri, the data didn't indicate a problem either. But of course, there was one team that was suspicious about their decision to send Tsunoda out at all. Mercedes. After all, the incident in Abu Dhabi last year did leave a sour taste in their mouth. The car was briefly inspected while the tires were being changed and the belts were being tightened. No visible fault appeared. It could be possibly that while the driver was pulling away, something broke at that moment, or maybe the team got alerted to something they may have missed initially. When Tsunoda was out there again, he claimed there was an issue, and when the engineers confirmed that, despite all of the evidence that this was just poorly handled, rigged was trending on F1 Twitter after the race. But was it rigged, or was it a poorly handled retirement? Let's find out. Lastly, did AlphaTauri really manipulate the race? The bizarre incident had a clear upshot. Well, for Red Bull at least, it helped Verstappen retain the lead, and that led to speculation over what it was. Innocent until proven guilty, right? However, this needs to be investigated because the implication that the team manipulated the race is a severe accusation. This this could get AlphaTauri disqualified from the tournament forever. Mercedes' Toto Wolff didn't like what happened. He stated he was speechless. He was in disbelief that something so stupid could have ever happened, but the team's inability to easily and immediately explain the situation didn't ease the situation either. There's lots and lots of evidence to suggest that nothing suspicious happened, but let's discuss another angle that you won't see in the news. Why would Red Bull risk it? Max Verstappen is clearly winning the championship. Charles Leclerc is a whopping 109 points behind him. Even then, he's tied with their driver number 2, Sergio Perez. This wasn't a crucial championship deciding race like Abu Dhabi last year. Max could have finished dead last and Leclerc would still not be able to catch up to him. So there seems to be no reason at all whatsoever for the Milton Keynes-based team to cheat and especially risk disqualification. So that's that for the bizarre Dutch GP retirement. Other news, a lot is happening in the world of F1 right now. We're having back-to-back Grand Prix. We just went through the Belgian GP, then we saw the Dutch GP, and now we're talking about Monza already. So we'll take a couple of minutes to discuss the most recent developments in the sport. First, domestic bliss turned to squabble at Mercedes. In F1, your team is your greatest rival. After all, if you lose to someone else, you can always blame the car, but if you lose to your own teammate, well, you're just not that good. However, no two teammates got along as well as George and Lewis did. Everyone saw that. Since most drivers are fighting for rank, the number 2s are mostly left salty after seeing the number 1 driver prioritized. Or like how Ferrari once prioritized Sainz over Leclerc, despite Leclerc being the clear contender from their side for the championship. Anyways, things were different at Mercedes because Russell is young, and Lewis is, well, Lewis. So he admires him a lot. Consequently, he's never had an issue with the 7-time world champion is prioritized over him. However, something interesting happened last night. George Russell was told to pass Hamilton, rather than defending the veteran from the racers behind him, and he was mad. He even radioed into his team stating that he couldn't believe how they'd wronged him. Sorry, Lewis, Russell's gotta have a chance too. Now let's talk about how Verstappen won the Dutch Grand Prix. Max Verstappen is simply untouchable when he's on the track. There's nothing he can't do, and he showed at the Dutch Grand Prix. Yes, he started on the pole, but the impressive part is that he stayed on the pole no matter what was happening during the race. Leclerc and Sainz started 2 and 3, but actually finished 3-8. That's rather unfortunate considering Ferrari was all set to give Red Bull a challenge just a few Grand Prix ago. This season is definitely the Red Bulls, but will Ferrari be able to do something next season? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Finishing up, Ricciardo is not having a good season. We all know what happened with Dan Ricciardo. He might not even have a seat in F1 next season. You know, McLaren kicked him out and things at Alpine are just a bit awkward. Maybe he could have had a good race to make up for all that. Well, that didn't happen because he finished 17th. He started 17th too, no doubt, but come on, a few years ago he was expected to be the world champion at least once, and now he's out of the midfield as well. Well, whatever happens, we genuinely hope the best for him. Well, that's all we have for you guys today. So do you folks think AlphaTauri helped Red Bull cheat, or is everyone just blowing things out of proportion? Let us know all your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. See you next time, guys.